So I recently came across this plugin called GPT for Sheets. And when I go into the pricing, I see that it costs us between $2.50 to $35 based on the model that you use. And this the subscription for the users include. And if you provide your own API, then the cost is reduces to either $5 or $1. And as someone who is very cheap, I guess, I don't want to pay for the subscription. Plus, I don't want to share my data with third party. So I said, why not to build the function, the GPT function on my own? Since they provide different examples, I just need to mimicking those functionalities in Google Sheets. And that's what I'm going to show you today, how to create a function to call OpenAI's GPT API. Now, before we dive into the tutorial, so of course I'm going to show you the demo. Now, I created two functions. One is to call the OpenAI's API's GPT model directly. And that's going to be the function that we're going to learn how to create. And the other function is going to be this GPT table function that you can use to populate dummy data. And for this video, I'm only going to show you the first function, which is the code GPT function. And the GPT table function will be available to my Patreon subscribers. Now here, let me just give you a quick demo. So I can insert my prompts in one of the cell. Now in the prompts, I can ask any questions. So currently I'm using GPT 4.0 model, which is the most advanced model today. But for demonstration purpose, I can say, where is San Francisco? And I can either autofill the formula that already contains the code GPT function, or I can simply insert the function manually. Now the function has three parameters: prompts, which is a required field, temperature, model. Those two are optional if I expand the window. And here's an example on the function itself. All right, so here I'm going to select the prompts in cell A8. And I can either insert the temperature 0.1, or I can specify the model that I want to use. And for now, I'm going to keep as GPT 3.5 Turbo and enter. And I would say San Francisco is located in the state of California on the west coast of the United States. Now, pretty straightforward. All right, so let's open a new Google Sheets by going to sheets.new to create a new Google Sheets file. Now name this as tutorial for GPT function. Now here, click on extensions, then click on apps script. Now this one thing I forgot to do. So first we need to obtain an OpenAI's API key. So simply go to platform.openai.com. Now simply create a new API key. And I'll name this as tutorial. I'm going to copy the API key. Now go back to the app scripts editor. All right, so inside the editor, I'm going to delete the default function. And I'll create a constant called OpenAI API key. And simply assign the API key. I'm also going to create another constant called max tokens. And it's going to set the max token usage that a model can use. And I forgot the semicolon at the end. Now, the first thing we want to do here is we want to insert the docstring. So this is going to be the function's description, the parameters descriptions, and make sure that I insert custom function to make the function available. Next, we're going to define the function. So actually I'm going to rename the function to code GPT. Now here we can define the parameters. And if you look at OpenAI's API documentation, there are additional parameters that you can supply. But for now, I'm only going to supply these two parameters since they are the most commonly used parameters. And for the default model, I'm going to set that to GPT 3.5 Turbo. And for the temperature, I'm going to set the default to 0.4. And inside the function, I'm going to define the endpoint, which is going to be api.openai.com/v1/chat/completions. Then I'm going to define the payload. So payload is going to be the arguments that you're going to pass to OpenAI's API. So inside the payload, I'm going to set the model with the model argument GPT 3.5 Turbo. Then I'm going to insert the messages. Messages is going to be a list. Inside the list, we need to define the role, which is going to be user. User will be the user, like ourselves, followed by the prompt to the contents key, followed by temperature and max tokens. So max tokens associated to the max tokens constant. Next, we're going to define the options object. The options object is going to be used to specify what operations that you want to perform to the API. So here I want to make a post request, meaning that we're going to send the API some data, and these are the data that I want to send. So here we need to define the data type, which is going to be a JSON object. Headers is going to be used to authenticate the request. And payload is going to define the arguments. Now at this point, we can make the request code. And to make a request code, I'm going to insert a try-catch block. Basically, the try-catch block will capture any exception or any error if the API code fail. They want to return the error message. We also want to log the error message. So these two lines is going to be what we want to do when the API code fail. And these three lines is going to be the operations or actions that I want to perform to make the API code. And to make the API code, we're going to use this URL fetch app.fetch function. We're going to provide the API's endpoint, then we're going to provide the options object. And we're going to return the response as a response object. And once we get the response back, we need to pass the content using json.parse. And from response, we can get the content by referencing the get content text function. And from this point, we can reference rest.choices since there will only be one result from the response. .message, .content, .trim. So trim is going to remove the extra spaces on both ends. And that's going to be the function. Now save the file or save the project. You don't necessarily need to rename the project. Now we can go back to the spreadsheet. And let's do this. I'll insert the header prompt. And for the prompts, I'll basically write something easy. What is 1 plus 2? Name the 3 biggest cities in the US. Now we're going to insert the code GPT function. And I'll reference the prompt. And I'll keep the temperature and model ID the same and press enter. And we get the output of 1 plus 2 equals to 3. And I can autofill the formula. And that gives me the top 3 cities, New York, LA, and Chicago. Alright, so that concludes this tutorial, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. And I'll post a link to the source code in the description. If you find this video useful, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.